Hello and welcome to the Darkened Room of Music Conversation.
I'm Darren.
And I'm Chris, and today we are going to rank a certain set of Nine Inch Nails albums.
All right, please explain.
Okay, yeah. So we thought about, we want to do a ranking like we did with the Killers.
Yeah.
But we looked at what Nine Inch Nails has released, and if you do LPs and EPs all together, that's 17 albums.
Yeah.
I don't have that much time. So
I don't either.
So we got to looking at it, and it's like, okay, so the first 5 official full-length releases were on a major label of some sort. One was TVT at the very beginning, and then they finished out on Interscope.
Right.
So I'm like, let's just rank those.
Right. And I think there was a kind of a method to that. I think that with Trent, he did everything he does is calculated. So I think that once he pursued all these concepts, as far as full-length albums goes, I think he kind of got over making albums, and I think he kind of wanted to do more of the EP. Hey, I can go in this jazz direction,
sure,
this ambient direction over here, and not make a whole album in that direction. Mm-hmm. So I just think that he's more comfortable doing that these days.
I believe so too, and there was a little bit of turmoil with his record deal, the record label, which really started from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Tell a little history of the band. Trent Reznor, of course, is from Cleveland, Ohio. He was employed as an assistant engineer and janitor at Right Track Studio there in Cleveland. And the owner, Bert Koster, decided to let him just, use the studio on his off days to record what he wanted. Yeah. And the quote was that it cost him nothing more than a little wear on his tape heads. So he didn't mind Trent just monkeying around there in the studio. So Trent was inspired by Prince, who played most of the instruments on his albums. So he's like, I'm just going to go in and do it all myself. Right. He pretty much did everything except drums. Right. And so he started recording the stuff, and he had commented that a lot of the lyrics that he was coming up with was just off the top of his head. He was kind of in the, weird mind space in that time, and he had a lot of depressing thoughts. So he's like, I'm just going to write these down. No one's going to hear it anyway. Right. So, kind of for his own therapy, more or less. Pretty much, yeah. Well, record labels picked up on it. They were shopping it around, and TVT is the one that picked it up. Right. Now, TVT is known for those television greatest hits kind of, but yeah, they picked it up, and that first album actually did pretty well.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah. So Reznor chose the name Nine Inch Nails because it abbreviated easily, rather than for any literal meaning. That's a quote from him. There's all kinds of other theories out there as to what it means, the nails used on the cross were 9 inches and all that stuff. So, but as far as I know, that's an official quote from him. So yeah, there was some turmoil with TVT. One of the things he didn't like about the label was that they were trying to classify him as a synth pop group, when he didn't want to be labeled that, because he came from the world of Ministry and KMFDM, those type of bands, more of the industrial rock.
Yeah. And he was a huge Human League fan. I've heard him say that many times. The early darker type period of Human League.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of his background, where he came from, and
very cool.
A lot of the other history, throughout the band, I think we'll discuss as we bring up the albums.
Sounds good.
We rank them. All right.
All right. So we're gonna dive right in.
Let's dive right in.
My number 5 is gonna be Year Zero. Now, I like this album, and it had been a while since I heard it, and I believe it came out in 2006, 2007, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And we don't talk politics on this channel.
Right.
But it is a political album.
Yeah.
And the concept of the album was basically he didn't like the government at that time in the United States.
Yep.
And he was trying to see the government 15 years down the road, and it being more of a, more in that direction, which at that time was right wing.
Yeah.
And
it was a very dystopian kind of a picture. It's my number 5 too, so I'll just reveal that.
Okay, yeah. There are some good songs on the album.
Yeah.
I think it's the most inconsistent from the standpoint of just most of the albums that he creates, there's a vision, and it's really easy to follow. This one, I get lost a little bit in it.
Yeah, it's a little disjointed, a little scattered, and
Good songs, though.
Good songs, and there's some of the songs, especially in the instrumental breaks.
Yeah,
it's really good atmosphere.
Totally.
But I found myself like struggling to finish the album.
Yeah. And I like Capital G. That's one of my favorite songs.
That's a great song. Yeah.
And I don't know. I get kind of like a Marilyn Manson vibe in parts of this album.
Yeah.
And him and Marilyn have a crazy history. Yeah. But I do like it. God Gibbon's cool. What is it? Survivalism? Is that the name of the song, I think?
Yes.
I like that one a lot.
That was actually released as a single.
I think it was the first single, possibly.
I believe it was, yeah.
There's some good, very listenable things, but I think as a whole, he's definitely done better records, and we'll get to those moving right along.
Yeah. So, some things I read about this album, too, is that he was actually trying to work on a script to turn it into a movie.
Gotcha.
And it was like almost a decade worth of him just trying to get it done, and he's like, screw it, I'm not doing it. So they brought on a writer, and he wasn't very good. Yeah. So Trent was asked in like 2017, like, what happened to the project, and he's like, the writer, blah, 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 I should have just wrote it myself. So he just kind of scrapped it.
Right. Okay. Well, that kind of makes sense then. And around this time, like I mentioned, a lot of artists were not happy with the political environment of that time.
True. Yep.
And there was a lot of albums that kind of pointed in a similar direction.
Very much so. Yeah.
I know that like Incubus made one, and
Green Day.
Ministry. Yeah. So a lot of that was going on there. So
it was. Yeah.
It's always
it was a little bit of an oversaturation of that theme.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So since that's both our number 5s, you move on to your number 4.
All right. So my number 4 is the album that came out before Year Zero, and that is With Teeth.
Okay.
That's my number 4. I like this album a lot. I'll say this. It's one of the albums in their catalog that I tend to, I hate to be this guy. I really like the singles off of it quite a bit.
Yeah.
The rest of it, not as much. So, obviously I love The Hand That Feeds. I think that's just an excellent song. It's one of those you just want to crank it up all the way.
Yep.
Only is very cool, of course. Every Day is exactly the same. I like that one a whole lot. All the Love in the World, the opener. I just love the mood that it sets.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go. So, once again, he's focusing on trying to straddle the balance of industrial heavy stuff and electronic rock. And still being accessible, because I don't care what he says, a lot of the stuff that he was influenced by is accessible.
Yeah.
And so a lot of his stuff, particularly the singles of this, kind of have that direction where, he's writing catches and hooks and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's my number 4 from 2005, With Teeth.
Okay, so we're up on our first disagreement here.
Okay.
My number 4 is The Fragile.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Now, it's a great album. There's a lot of great stuff on it. It's too damn long. There's fantastic moments on here. But my impression that I got was on the left disc, the first disc. Yeah. The Day the World Went Away is great. I loved the La Mer Into the Great Below, very ambient.
Right.
It almost seemed as if, and I think there's some truth to this, that it's kind of a sequel to the Downward Spiral.
Yeah.
Even though the guy dies at the end. Yeah. But it's kind of the same theme.
Sure.
It almost feels as if to me, because the right disc, the second one, is more ambient.
Right.
It almost felt as if he was trying to appease the hardcore Nine Inch Nails fans with disc 1, and then go in a direction he wanted to go into with disc 2.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement.
Yeah. Now, he's never admitted that. He's never said that.
Yeah.
It just felt that way to me.
Yeah, I agree, and it's my number 3, by the way, so I guess we can jump right in and talk about it.
Yeah, go right ahead, sure.
In retrospect, it had been a long time since I'd heard this in its entire duration. I actually swallowed it pretty well.
Yeah.
I really did. And I really, really enjoyed a lot of the moments on that record.
Yeah. I loved We're In This Together. I mean, I had that on a compilation CD. When you used to burn CDs.
Yeah. We're those guys.
Yeah.
We're old like that.
Yeah.
I agree. And you could definitely, anytime an album is, how many 2 record sets other than The Wall, other than the White Album, do you find yourself listening to all the way through? Not very many.
Not many, no.
Not many at all.
If this album was just the second disc, I would have loved it way more.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite songs are probably on disc 1. But so a slight disagreement there. But
sure, yeah. But probably what the mistake that I made is I listened to all of these in the same day, back to back.
I couldn't do that. I spread it out over 2 days.
So coming out of the downward spiral into this, I'm like, I've heard this before. This is all the same. You know? So that's how it hit me.
Right. I really like the sound of that album. I think it sounds really, really excellent. I love the production, the atmosphere.
Agreed.
And I think he was, once again, like you said, great point, hinting at what he was going to do in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
All right. So you know my number 3, so it's on to your number 3.
On to my number 3, it would be With Teeth. And you already brought up a lot of great points about it. This is the album where Atticus Ross came on and started to produce the albums and then eventually become a band member.
Right.
And you can really tell because Atticus Ross brings in the structure and the ambient and a lot of the production qualities that you're hearing in the soundtrack stuff they're doing now, like on The Social Network. And there was that kind of remake reboot of The Equalizer starring Denzel Washington that, they did all, you could hear it, I hear a lot of the beginnings of that on this album right here, and I love that stuff.
Me too.
So that's what made me like this album more than The Fragile.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. And I don't disagree with it. And really, those are very close for me.
Yeah.
We got them reversed in our positioning, but I don't disagree with anything that you said other than I like, disc 1 better on Fragile. But
And did you catch this on all the years that I have listened to that song and loved it, when I listened to it today, it was like, there's a little touch of Talking Heads in here.
Totally.
Yeah. Once in a lifetime. It's like it had that kind of feel where he's just kind of talking at the beginning and throwing out these ideas.
And you know what I hear on some of that too? And I don't know, this is probably out there a little bit, but I'm serious. I think there was, I don't know if it was a concentrated concerted effort, but I hear some Radiohead vibes on some of these albums.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Especially the last couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just something I picked up on. Listening to it. So, and I'm talking about like the Kid A era,
right?
Radio,
totally. Yeah. I agree with that. All right, so that's my number 3. I guess we're going to go on to your number 2.
Number 2 for me, and it was going to come down between these two. I love them both.
There's only 2 left.
There's only 2 left. I'm going to pick, and it's probably going to be the opposite of you. I'm going to pick The Downward Spiral as my number 2.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's one of the, and we mentioned this on the concept album episode. It's a very dark album about somebody going through hell, literally. Yeah. And in the end, takes his own life. I think the song "Hurt" is one of the best songs ever written. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Johnny Cash did it, and I love his version too. Best video ever made.
So good.
That just goes to show what a terrific piece of songwriting that it was. Songs like "Closer," I never get tired of it.
Right.
It's a masterpiece. What are you gonna say?
Yeah.
I think it's a really good album all the way through. The most. Probably the most consistent album, even though I'm picking it as my number 2. And I would say, hands down, you do a 9 Inch Nails Paul White's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And I really love, like, Man with the Gun. I mean, what can you say? It's just one of those records you can put it on if you're in a dark mood, I guess, or however you want to say it.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. To
say the least.
Yeah. It's not going to cheer you up. Although it does, I'm happy listening to 9 Inch Nails. And I'm still around, so
there you go.
It couldn't have had too much of a bad impact on me, but I do realize that it is a wonderful record, and I think his most, as far as concept records go, definitely the one that hit the mark the best of all the stuff he's ever done.
I would agree with that. Yeah. We're going to go on to my number 2, and you are right, sir. Pretty Hate Machine is my number 2.
Yeah.
Now, the debut album, debut effort, it's fantastic. I mean, it's definitely way lighter than his other stuff.
It is.
But it's, it comes from that world of Ministry when they were like a synth pop band.
Yeah, with Sympathy era, more like that, but a little bit heavier.
Yeah, exactly right. In fact, the man who engineered with Symphony also engineered a lot of the tracks on this. His name is Flood.
Oh, yeah. Flood.
Yeah. There you go. Something I Can Never Have is probably one of my favorite Nine Inch Nails songs. It's
Great choice.
Ranks right up there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Now, a lot of this, there's some stuff in here that I kind of heard that kind of called back to those earlier synth pop bands and industrial rock bands. Trent hates the synth pop term because that's one of the reasons why he was fighting with TVT Records.
Yeah.
And eventually got picked up by Interscope for the next album. At first, he was like not real happy about that because he felt like that he was like kind of like just traded and he had no say in it.
Right.
But there at the beginning, Interscope actually wound up being a good thing for him.
Absolutely.
But the track Sin, I noticed some samples in there. I'm like, I've heard these before, and it took me a minute to figure out it was from My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult.
Yeah.
If you've never heard of this band, they fit right into that vein.
They're
of
a
industrial
trip, man.
rock. They're more dancey.
I think they're weirder in some
They're
ways.
very weird. I mean, they had the song that I'm thinking of is called "And This Is What the Devil Does." So. And it's a very much more dancey and electronic than what Trent was doing. But there's a I don't know, it's kind of like a barking, kind of like electronic, almost demon sounding rock kind of thing.
Yeah.
He uses that in Sin.
Yeah.
I heard it and I'm like, that caught my ear.
Recognize it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's my number one. And mainly the reason I rank it, first off, it made the biggest impression on me compared to any of their other records.
Yeah.
It came out at a time when it was definitely different. We're talking about the hair metal, heavy metal era.
Right.
And what was funny was metal kind of claimed them. Even
kind of did, yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They were, I believe, they were on Metal Shop and everything back then. So
yeah,
and Terrible Lie is probably my favorite song.
So yeah, it's a great song. Track 2 there,
yeah, by Nine Inch Nails. I just absolutely adore that song.
Yeah,
and it has the most songs that I like on any Nine Inch Nails album, and it's one of those I don't have to be in a depressed state of mind to listen to the record and enjoy it.
Yeah,
so it's definitely the one I've heard the most. Definitely the one that's the easiest to absorb. And
I agree with that. Yeah,
and for however many years it's been out, 30 years or whatever. It's remained my favorite one.
Yeah, it kind of crossed over genres a little bit. I remember the first place I heard Head Like a Hole was on 91 Rock.
Yeah, which was an alternative station.
Vanderbilt University's college radio station.
Yeah.
So yeah, college radio was playing it. Metal Shop was playing it. I mean, it was all over the place. You couldn't get away from it.
Exactly. And Trent was kind of, and I think this was by design. Back then, he kind of was this mysterious guy, you know.
Yeah.
You didn't hear a lot of interviews with him.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, man, I wonder what's going on in that kooky brain of his. And I think it made for pretty cool theater, in all honesty.
Yeah.
He understood, you know, the show business side, but I love it. And like I said,
what set him apart from the other industrial acts was that he actually tried to apply the verse chorus kind of structure.
Yeah.
And that's what made it more accessible.
True.
It was still edgy and rough and rebellious, but you know, it was easily digestible by more of the public.
Exactly. And Trent is, I think, an underrated musician. I think he's a really fabulous artist, just in general.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So, no surprise, my number one is The Downward Spiral.
No surprise.
Yeah. Now, this album was inspired by, there's a David Bowie album, and the name of it is escaping me now for some reason, but I'll put it on the screen, and Pink Floyd, The Wall. And as you go towards the end of the album, it's like, oh, I hear the Pink Floyd now.
Yeah.
You know, totally. What an album full of chaos that winds up in a place of just, I don't know how to describe it, darkness and despair. It goes from the down. I mean, aptly named The Downward Spiral,
but kind of in a subtle way near the end. It's kind of It's kind of weird how it does that. Yeah,
I picked up on themes though in this album. One of the lines you hear repeatedly through the album is "Nothing can stop me now." It's like, you know, he's just done. And he's being self-destructive, which track 1's called Mr. Self-Destruct.
Right.
But you hear that theme all the way through it. As it gets down towards the end, after Big Man with a Gun, so it's like the moment where he went the craziest, suddenly it gets quiet.
Yeah.
Track called A Warm Place. And I started to pick up from A Warm Place to Eraser to Reptile it seemed to me like The Warm Place was his drug-induced calm. And then the next track, Eraser, was the withdrawals kicking in.
Right.
And aptly named next track is Reptile. You've heard of Chasing Dragons.
Yeah.
But Reptile obviously represents drugs,
right,
and the temptation of drugs. There's contaminate to alleviate the loneliness, so it's just a work of art, and what a fantastic look into a psychological. It's like a psychologist can study this album,
Yeah.
It's like, from chaos and this destruction, the self-destructive behavior, the depression,
the addiction,
the drug use, the addiction, it's all in there.
Yeah.
And it's incredible where the album winds up.
Right.
And Hurt, is just, when you listen to all those in order and you get down to Hurt, goosebumps.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Hurt by itself as a single is great.
Sure.
But it doesn't hit you as hard if you don't hear all those songs before it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And your comparison to The Wall, I think, is really, really, really valid.
Yeah. There, in one of those last tracks, I heard the breathing. I was thinking of the Operation Mindcrime.
Yeah.
Where, I think it's called In My Room.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar storyline there.
Why do all these concept albums end with people dying? Have you ever noticed that? 2112, this one.
Yeah.
Queensryche.
Well, in Queensryche, he didn't really die.
No.
He just went crazy again.
It went crazy again, but Mary dies. She commits suicide. There's always something.
There's a very common thing. Pink Floyd, The Wall, Goodbye, Cruel World, I'm leaving you today. Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah. It's crazy, but it makes for a good concept. It's dramatic.
Yeah.
So that's my number one, The Downward Spiral. I hope I didn't say too much.
No, that was excellent.
I just went on and on and on. So
and once again, you're splitting hairs in my opinion between those top two albums.
Yeah.
I simply picked Pretty Hate Machine just because, like I said, it's got the largest number of songs that I can listen to at any point. So
yeah, Pretty Hate Machine, great album.
Yep.
Love all the songs on it. But The Downward Spiral to me is just a work of art, and that's what made it number one for me.
All right.
One thing I want to bring up before we close is I toiled over leaving out the EP Broken. Mm-hmm. Now, we left it out because it's not an LP. It's not a long play. It's shorter.
Yeah.
But it was the first release on Interscope, so it could actually be considered their major label debut. And he was recording those songs because of his strife with TVT Records. They were wanting him to do another synth pop. That's what they were calling it, and that was irritating the crap out of him. So the tracks you hear on Broken are just crazy, insane, heavy guitars. That's why.
Yeah.
It was like an FU to the record label.
And in a weird way, it was a good bridge between those two.
It really
releases.
was. Yeah, it really was.
I agree.
Wish is an incredible song.
Top 3 song for me.
Ear bleed, turn it up to 11 every time it comes on.
Yeah.
Top
3 Nine Inch Nails song for me.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Broken was just the bridge between TVT and Interscope. Interscope picked them up and they released it.
Yeah.
Because they were fine with them releasing an album like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to bring that up.
Great band with some just monumental music that'll always be around, in my opinion.
And if you're a Nine Inch Nails fans, I'm sure you have an opinion here. So drop it down in the comments. What's your favorite album? What's your favorite song? Did you find the albums after these to be better, or did you like them as well or not as well?
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of it was very ambient, Atticus Ross influence coming through, of course. There's a lot of good stuff on there, but they're not really cohesive albums like these are.
Exactly.
Let us know what you think. Click like if you liked this video, and let's play some trivia.
Let's do it.
All right, well, let's do this one again, huh?
I'm ready.
The Name That Tune DVD 80s edition. We're going to play Name That Group, 3 videos with no sound to aid us in, to clue us in as to who it is.
Visual only.
Visual only. Yeah. So we'll call up the first video and see how we do. The last 2 actually got us, if you remember.
I do remember.
Yeah. Run DMC. It was in his hat. And then it's behind them with the
We
lights.
would have got it anyway. Come on.
Yeah, it's true. But
yeah,
this is supposed to be a trivia game. There's an actual board and stuff that you play.
Yeah, how could you miss that?
They could have at least made it tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all right. And I liked Run DMC.
I did too. Yeah. Totally did. I loved. It's Tricky. I thought
Christmas in Harlem.
My Adidas. Yeah, this was great stuff. All right, round 2.
Second base is what we call this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is just old footage.
Yeah.
But who used this in a video? This is like all footage I've seen before elsewhere outside of it.
Exactly. This is real. I mean, what would they do?
This is one where you kind of have to have the music behind it. It's probably like Art of Noise or somebody like that.
U2. Oh, it's Queen.
Queen.
What video is that?
I don't know.
I don't know what
We're going to have to look that up when we're done. Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
There was a lot of old-looking footage like that in Radio Gaga. Maybe that was it?
Yeah.
Could have been, yeah. So
who knows?
All right. Third base.
Third time around.
That's right. This was Der Kommissar by
After the Fire.
After the Fire.
After
yes.
the Fire.
I think that's what this is, right?
It looks like it to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where he's going.
Yeah. Don't turn around. There we go.
After the Fire.
That one was pretty easy for me, anyway.
2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Ain't bad.
I did see that video a lot back in the day.
Great song, too.
It's a great one, yeah.
I love that.
Of course, Falco was the one who did the original.
Yep, that's right. A lot of people don't know that.
It was in German.
Exactly.
After the Fire did the English version, so.
Love it. Good stuff.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll be back again with another video very soon. Take care.
See you then.